reptilian shapeshifters are behind ISIS, the Federal Reserve and Sesame Street. This is the False Flag Nation podcast, with your hosts, Prometheus and William Revere.
And we are back. Welcome back, folks. This is the False Flag Nation podcast, where we delve into reptilian conspiracies, geopolitical intrigue, and all things Illuminati. Joining me, as always, William Revere.
That was nicely done.
Yeah, I know. I'm still working on it. It's still we haven't quite ironed out the intro yet, but it's a work in progress, folks. Keep tuning in.
Should we have that pre-recorded or not?
Pre-record. We might want to. That might be something worth looking into. Like how Rogan records his intro before the guest actually comes on. So, because if you listen to the older ones, he'll start going on some rant about like gas ripcord powered dildos, and it's like and that's like in the middle of one of his advertisements. I guess his sponsors got angry at him or something, so he had to stop doing that. But anyway, I am Prometheus. We are back once again to talk about the events that happened in Paris last week. Unless you've been living under a rock for the last couple days, you probably heard there was a pretty horrific terrorist attack last Friday, and it's pretty much been the only thing that's been on the news for the last few days. I mean, this they've been doing a lot of attacks over the last few months. As you'll recall, there was one in Turkey. There was the one in Egypt with the Russian jet, which we'll talk a little bit more about. Yeah. But this has been by far the biggest one, and it has been officially linked to ISIS. They are claiming credit for it. And it's also linked to the refugee crisis that we did a show about a few weeks ago. Because that is how at least one of the perpetrators got into the country. And the media elites who are pushing this mass migration are in full lockdown mode, trying to shut down that particular narrative of events. But Will, why don't you start us off by giving us your take? What was your initial reaction once you heard this? What did your guts, your conspiratorial instincts tell you was happening? I mean, but by the way, before we go any further, we are not trying to make light of this events in Paris or to imply that it didn't happen. It absolutely did. What we're trying to dissect is how does this fit into the larger trends of what's happening in Europe, in Syria, in the Middle East, and how does this fit into the overall NWO designs that we talk about on this show. So, Will, I'm sorry to cut you off there. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, and that's a good idea. We definitely want to reiterate that, this event definitely happened. This wasn't something that was staged. And I think there's going to be more video coming out to further prove this point. In any event, I would, right off the bat, I sensed a false flag. Okay, this was, I believe, allowed to happen, if not aided by various governments too. So I'm guessing what I'm thinking is this is a little match to start the fire of potentially World War III. It really could be.
In what sense do you think this was aided by a government? In which governments?
I think that when we're talking about the New World Order, when we're talking about the Illuminati and the new one world government, you have to basically consider most Western nations to be working together. So this was a joint collaboration between France and the U.S. Absolutely. I think that this was an attempt to unify the West and an attempt to get everybody on the same page. I mean, anybody who was on Facebook this weekend or even Friday night noticed how quickly various countries changed their monuments to have the Parisian flag.
The French flag, and it's on all the filters in people's Facebook profile pictures and everything.
That happened pretty quickly. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that was pre-planned or anything like that, but
no, that's just a viral thing that happened.
But the idea is that you saw how this affected people. You saw how this brought them together. So I'm wondering if this wasn't a calculated and deliberate event that was allowed to happen. And I believe that intelligence communities in both France and the US knew about something that could have been leading to this and probably chose to do nothing and basically let this happen. This is, yet again, this is a Gulf of Tonkin. This is a September 11th. This is a weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah.
So who knows where we're going from here, but as you saw, France kind of stepped back recently over the past 9 months or so in their involvement in the Middle East, and they were able to scramble jets and start developing a battle plan within hours to strike back at ISIS. So, I think that, like I said before, this is a joint effort and perhaps planning World War III. Who knows?
I think you're onto something there. I think what this is, what the events of last week told me is that this is directly linked to this mass influx of refugees. A lot of them, as I've maintained, are not true war refugees. A lot of them are not from Syria at all. They're just blending in, because most Europeans cannot tell the difference between the various Arabic dialects and everything. But it has been conclusively proven that at least one of these attackers came in through Greece about a month ago, and he was fingerprinted when he passed through, I think, Germany. He was processed there, then passed into France, and then linked up with whoever these people were. And
now, was this a guy who they found his passport next to his body that blew up?
Yeah, he was apparently one of the suicide bombers, and they found just like a torso somewhere wearing a vest, or the remnants of a vest, and among the contents of his pockets, they found a Syrian passport, and it matched up with some guy who passed through Greece. And it's just like somehow I told you so just doesn't quite say it. Somehow, it's just what, as I said a couple weeks back when we did that Syrian refugee crisis episode. I think that this is part of this is just one small incident within a larger strategy that the European elites, the global elites, are imposing upon the people within the EU. Because I don't think the way this is being framed in the media is how you should really be looking at it. This is not like the NATO countries versus ISIS, and then big bad Vladimir Putin on the side, getting himself involved too, suspiciously helping the evil Bashar al-Assad. No, this is the global elites, the George Soros, the Angela Merkels, the The Barack Obamas, all the people. Yeah, the
Boone Pickens.
the Boone Pickens.
Yeah, that southern gentleman from Texas, the oil baron.
Yeah, the people of that ilk in the Bilderberg Club that are pushing this this sort of transnationalist agenda, where they are using this migration. They have intentionally destabilized Syria. There is already the pre-existing power vacuum in the wake of the Iraq War. They wanted Assad gone too, because Assad refuses to play part of the international fractional reserve banking game. So they decided he needed to go. And so the Western governments, the U.S., Israel, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia, it is my belief, propped up this organization for the purpose of using them as a tool to get rid of Assad. Assad put up a better fight than they expected, and it's caused a massive civil war. And then you have a couple other factions who are fighting Assad at the same time. So it's caused this humanitarian flood of people to go into Turkey and then into Europe as well. With all these people and their liberal white guilt don't want to say no to them, except for the Eastern European nations, who, as we all know by now, have closed their borders. And that brings us to where we are right now. They've hit kind of they've hit a bit of a roadblock because people were. I think a lot of resentment was starting to form within Europe about this. You saw in Eastern Europe, the countries were closing their borders. And then the attack in Paris, they knew something like this was going to happen. I don't think like the French government or the U.S. government or something were the ones doing this within that nightclub in Paris or within the football stadium. I think they've kind of lit the match to the and created the fire that is ISIS, and they kind of knew the direction it would start burning in, and that's what's happened now. And they're taking advantage of the chaos that it has created. Like France is in full lockdown mode right now. But
here's my question.
Yeah.
Here's my question. I think that there had to have been involvement from a form of government, because to get fully automatic AK-47s and bombs into France or anywhere in France is incredibly difficult to do.
Well,
knowing the right people.
They probably just bought it on the black market. I mean, there's organized crime that has nothing to do with radical Islam in Europe, and they're like mafia and whatnot. They have access to weapons. They might have sold them the weapons, but
you don't hear these types of things happening.
No. It's much more difficult to get guns in France than, for example, the United States. But I don't think that necessarily means like. I mean, it's possible. Yeah, it's possible. Some fucking Mossad guy met them in a parking lot and handed them a trunk full of weapons or something. But I think this is a strategy on their part that backfired, because they wanted to simultaneously strengthen this narrative that we need to take out Assad and ISIS simultaneously because they're both bad, and then install some new government that'll somehow solve all the world's problems. And at the same time they want that to happen, they want Europe to welcome all these migrants that are coming in. But the migration was the mechanism by which, that was the means by which at least some of these people got into Europe to carry out this attack. So France unilaterally sealed its borders, which I don't think like the George Soroses of the world and the people at the very upper echelons of the EU, the European Commission, that they don't want them to do that. They're going in the same direction that Poland and Slovakia and Hungary are, and that's the opposite of what they're trying. So their plan worked too well, I think. So I think this is really going to be the catalyst to a revival of nationalism in Europe. I said it, the N word, nationalism, which is really something that has been discouraged in Europe. They really push this idea of a pan-European identity within particularly the Schengen region of the European Union, and it's beginning to disintegrate. I don't know if you've seen these stories over the past few months. You have the Catalonia region of Spain voting to become autonomous. You have the eastern countries, as I said before, fragmenting away and just straight up refusing to follow the decisions coming from Brussels or the informal orders coming from Germany. Like, the whole fucking thing is unraveling.
Yeah, but couldn't that also be part of the bigger picture? I mean, you set up a situation like this.
I don't think so. I get what you're saying, because I do believe there are false flag attacks for various reasons, but I think that the European Union, as I've said, is really the beta test for how these people want the entire world to be run. It's something that started out as just a free trade zone, a trade agreement, and it's evolved into this, borderline, totalitarian's perhaps too strong a word, but it's really this supranational entity that has more power than the sovereign governments within it. And this, I think you're beginning to see larger versions of that, being the foundations for those being laid down in the form of these things like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and then there's a transatlantic version of that too, which for some reason doesn't get as much press. But yeah, that could be the foundation for a similar arrangement, and that is what the desired end state of these New World Order types is. It's a one world government.
Yeah, I think we're probably on the same page. My only thought would be that maybe this is a strategy that they're taking to divide Europe even further, and then there'll be a larger threat to Western Europe as a whole, and perhaps they would come together at that point. I don't know.
I think I see what you're saying. Like they're purposely facilitating this massive migration, and by extension these attacks, and it's going to cause so much anger and instability that there will be social strife,
Right.
potentially even civil wars, and that will give them the excuse to swoop in and crack down with this pan-European police state, which is what they've wanted all along.
That's kind of the angle that I'm thinking
Yeah.
could go in Europe.
Yeah. Oh no, I think you're definitely onto something. I think that's definitely something that it would make their vision a lot easier to implement if they had that ability. I mean, you're seeing the beginnings of that in countries like Sweden and Germany, where it's basically become illegal to criticize the government's decision to let these people in. Like, I seriously, people are being jailed because of stuff they wrote on Facebook, or things that calling into radio shows and stuff.
Really?
Facebook has begun shutting down people's accounts in Germany. And I don't know if you saw this story. Angela Merkel was actually caught on an audio recording just before a press conference. She was caught on microphone talking to Mark Zuckerberg. He was there. And she was basically telling him, like, hey, we need to do some work. We need to stop censor criticism of the welcoming these immigrants into the country. And Mark's like, oh, yeah, I'm on it. We're working on it. And I've been
So there's a clear connection of this supposed free market entity,
Oh, absolutely.
like Facebook, and the backdoor agreements they have with governments.
Absolutely. I've talked to a couple people online that they have friends that wrote stuff critical of the government's decisions regarding this in Germany, and their friends' accounts got nuked. They just disappeared. They logged in one day and they had fewer friends than they did the day before. So it is happening. It is, and it's what's amazing is the total media blackout on it. You don't hear the whether it's the Chicken Hawk News on Fox or MSNBC. None of them are talking about it. It's it's all a big machine, man. This. I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase this. There's the official narrative you're being fed with this, kind of one-dimensional ISIS are the bad guys, and they blow stuff up, and we've got to send in the troops and stop them and stop Assad, who for some reason is just as bad, even though he's fighting ISIS. And it's just anyone with more than 7 functioning neurons knows that this is not what it is being sold as, and it's just.
I think you're right, and I think that this was needed to kind of revive the war drums, if you will, in the U.S. Because whether we like it or not, and I'm certainly against another conflict in any way, but I think most of the people in the U.S. are as well, and maybe they're not fully, and I mean the New World Order, maybe they're not prepared for some sort of attack in the U.S., but maybe they're going to test out France and see how the world reacts to it. Because that's, a Western country, and this was a pretty horrific Middle Eastern style attack. So they're kind of beta testing, if you will, in France. And who knows what is going to happen in the future. There could be an attack in the U.S. There's supposedly files sent over the internet and different things written that there's a list of cities in the U.S. that are potential targets for ISIS, which I think is probably more propaganda. But
they put out a video claiming they're going to try and attack D.C. I mean, good fucking luck. I used to live down there. DC's basically a fortress. There's cameras everywhere down there. There's enormous police presence. The only place I've ever seen more is Manhattan. But if that were to happen in the U.S., I think it would be somewhere else. Probably not like an East Coast city. It would be somewhere else. But I think you are right. They did need another major attack in a Western country to kind of fan the flames of war, so to speak, and get people riled up again. Because the Russian thing that really wasn't enough to get people upset. I think it's going to get Russia upset.
Well, that's an interesting point. That's an interesting point. I think we made it in one of the other episodes we did, but. Yeah. Russia's involvement is kind of sending a shockwave in the West and the U.S. specifically, because supposedly the damage being done by the Russian airstrikes is just like tenfold compared to anything that the U.S. has supposedly done.
Yeah, Obama has been carrying out these phony baloney airstrikes for the last 14 months and has gotten very little done. And the Russians started attacking in September, and they got more done in 2 months than Obama did in over a year. So Putin basically threw a wrench in the wheels of this whole thing. Like, this whole thing turned into everything was probably going according to plan until Russia finally agreed to help out Assad, and that has made this whole scenario a lot more interesting, because as I alluded to at the beginning of the show, there was a story just came out today that they confirmed that it was indeed a bomb on that plane, that Russian plane that crashed in Egypt, and ISIS did take responsibility for it. So I'm expecting Russia to really take the gloves off. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we hear an announcement that they're sending ground troops within the next week or so. Because, within 24 hours, France was like, we're at war after this. And Russia was just attacked too. And they are generally a more
aggressive.
They're a more bellicose country than France is. And France didn't hesitate when they were attacked to go to war. So, yeah, I think we're going to see a very heavy-handed response from Russia on this, which I welcome. Because, frankly, as sad as it is, I don't like to say this, I have more confidence that they're going to get rid of ISIS than Obama is. Because whether you will never in a million years hear Obama admit this, ISIS is serving the U.S. government's interests in opposing Assad. It's like he doesn't want to get rid of ISIS. It's not in his interest to do so at this time.
Now, do you think that the U.S. do you think they accidentally created and facilitated ISIS's actions, or do you think that they are directly involved and directly financing and arming them?
No, I lean closer to the latter of the two scenarios you just described. I think the U.S. government is and always has been more interested in removing Assad than they are with defeating ISIS. I think at best, they allowed ISIS to come into existence. At worst, they directly funded them and armed them for the purpose of creating this monster and then just sicking it on Assad. And it almost worked. But like I said, he put up a much tougher fight than they expected him to. And I honestly, when you start digging and looking at all the facts, it just doesn't add up. It just doesn't fucking add up. The official version of how we got here. So I think you have to arrive at that conclusion, Will.
I would agree. I think based on the U.S.'s actions in the past, this is right in line with some of the things that they've done again in the past. So why shouldn't we question it, and why shouldn't we believe that there isn't more U.S. involvement in ISIS's existence than we've been fed by the media and told by the media?
Yeah.
So I want to hit two other points too, which I think are interesting.
Go.
One, which I'll kind of toss out there and let other people react to, and you can comment if you'd like.
Yeah.
But I find it funny that the passport was found on a suicide bomber.
Yeah.
I find that a little bit laughable. I also find it funny that passports were found somehow passports were found from the September 11th airplanes and the hijackers.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Oh, that's common knowledge. That's how they were able to identify some of the hijackers.
Passport. Wait, so you're saying like the hijackers who when they got on the plane, they had their passports with them?
Yes.
Well, I think that would be normal because they're foreigners taking a domestic flight within a foreign country, and you're usually most places you have to show your passport before doing that.
Right, but if if jet fuel burned down the steel, how come it didn't destroy the passport?
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
So I find it interesting that they were able to identify who these people are because of their passports, yet there was absolute carnage surrounding it, but this flimsy piece of paper survived.
Yeah.
So I'll leave the viewers to react to that. And also, interesting, could be another wrench thrown into the Illuminati plan.
Yeah.
Anonymous has issued a threat to ISIS directly after the Paris attacks.
Oh, shit.
So either...
all bets are off now.
Right. Either they're going to find out who is behind ISIS really, or they'll shut them down completely. Meaning they'll attack their infrastructure, their technology, their trading. I know that they're still involved with oil and whatnot. And who the fuck is buying their oil? That's what I want to...
black market, allegedly. Again, that's the official story. Could be the fucking CIA buying their oil. But, and maybe that's why gas is so cheap now. But,
interesting.
I heard today that ISIS is using video games to communicate online. Like maybe like I'm just envisioning like some guy wearing a rag on his head having some chat with another guy wearing a similar rag, doing like a text chat in World of Warcraft or something, and that's how they coordinate. Yeah, because no one's gonna think to like. Like, would anyone... is the NSA monitoring conversations in World of Warcraft? I don't think they are. They probably will. Now, because I'm sure they're monitoring this thing, and they'll be like, "Hey, that's a good idea."
Yeah, but you know what? Even Xbox Live. Imagine like in the middle of a game, you're playing Fallout 4, whatever the fucking is. You're having a conversation.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a brilliant.
Yeah, they're talking with their headsets over Xbox Live. No one's monitoring that.
And I don't think there would be a way to monitor that. That's incredible.
Yeah, unless you join the game. There's the people on the government's dime, CIA people listening to camping in the corner like a noob, listening into the conversations.
That's a really interesting idea. Yeah. I never thought of that.
Well, I think we're just about running out of time here. I had one more thought that I wanted to throw out there because it's been pissing me off these last few days, and that is these French flag tricolor filters that everyone's putting on their fucking Facebook profile. First of all, it doesn't mean a goddamn thing. Okay, it doesn't make the people in France feel better. It doesn't intimidate the enemy. I saw a great meme. One of our buddies sent us the other day, or shows a bunch of ISIS assholes standing in front of their tank, ready to go to war, and it says, "Call off the jihad, boys! They're changing their Facebook statuses." Like this is indicative of the millennial generation hashtag slacktivism, where they think typing some dumb message in their status or changing a picture is indicative of some meaningful act of solidarity. It doesn't mean anything. It makes you feel good about yourself for about 5 seconds, and then you go back to your pumpkin spice latte. It doesn't do anything. And the only thing worse than that is that gay ass that peace sign with the it's like the Eiffel Tower,
right?
Except it's with a circle drawn around it, so it kind of looks like a poorly drawn Eiffel Tower, like someone had an epileptic seizure during an earthquake, and that's what the result was, while they're holding a pen. Like, no, stop. Do you know what's going to put a stop to this? Vote for politicians who are going to stop this mass wave of migration, who allow terrorists to flow in. Vote for politicians who are not going to take part in this global fractional reserve terror network of overthrowing governments who refuse to play part in their globalist agenda, and create these wars as a result, and create these organizations like ISIS to further their goals. Okay, stop being a pawn and stop being a sheep, because that's what you're doing when you put on one of these dumb little filters. That's exactly the response they want.
They're bringing awareness to the situation, okay? And I think you missed that.
You know what I'm aware of, Will? I'm aware of there's a lot of people I'm friends with on Facebook who's I need to pelt their houses with eggs or something. I ran out of steam halfway through that sentence. But you know what? I burned it all up in my previous rant. My point still stands. You're a fucking idiot if you put this dumbass French flag filter on your Facebook profile picture. Stop doing it. Start calling these power elites out on their bullshit, and that'll make a difference. You want to make a difference in the world? Do something like that. Start questioning the status quo. Don't engage in online half-assed, lazy acts of solidarity that, again, make you feel good about yourself in the time it takes you to finish your triple mocha frappa fuckaccino. Mic drop. That's all I got for this week.
That was well said. I agree fully. Again, send us your thoughts, comments, anything. We want to hear about it. We're going to be covering this topic and more of the current events going on in the next couple weeks. So, any other thoughts?
No, that's it. Just don't remember to follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. It's at False Flag Nation. We've got a sweet-ass new logo. Those Indians I hired on Fiverr did an amazing job. Let us know what you think of the new logo. We are going to be on iTunes very soon. Right now we're still just on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe. But we will keep you updated, and there'll be a big announcement on the website, falseflagnation.com, about when we're going to be on iTunes. And that is it for this week. We got a lot of more good stuff in the works, and we actually have a couple other episodes recorded, but we had some audio issues we needed to clean up. So there'll be more updates, possibly even later this week. So stay tuned. So what is it you normally say, Bill? Stay tuned, stay armed,
and stay aware.
Stay aware. Okay. And all that. And what?
And stay prepared.
Stay prepared. Stay weird. Okay.
All right.
It's been great, folks. I'm running on empty. I've been waiting for like hours now. Post your thoughts. Keep fighting the good fight.
All right.
Spit out the
good. Just stop. We're done.
Have a good night, folks.